Welcome to the Beyond You podcast, where we have real conversations about healing, trusting yourself again, and building the kind of relationships that actually feel good. I'm Samantha, and if you've ever felt like you're just going through the motions, like you're doing all the right things but still feeling disconnected, you're in the right place. Because here we go beyond the surface, beyond the hurt, beyond the patterns that keep you stuck. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Welcome back to the Beyond You podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and today, what I tell you, we're diving into something that's close to home for so many of us, literally. We're talking about hitting that family reset button and redefining these relationships on our terms. And the other day, my son asked me something that stopped me in my tracks. He said, "Mom, why do you talk to grandma differently than you talk to everybody else?" And I had to pause because, first of all, when did this child get so observant? But more importantly, he noticed something I was still working through. How we often shift into old patterns with family, even after we've done all this work on ourselves. And it's so easily that we tend to go to this because we kind of get back into our space where we were as a child versus how we are now. And that's exactly where we're going into today. Because here's what nobody really prepares us for. Sometimes the hardest part of personal growth isn't the growth itself. It's navigating familiar relationships with your new boundaries, your new voice, and your new understanding of what healthy relationships look like. So a lot of times you're going to think about the family pattern overall. So let's talk about what happens when you start growing and healing. But your family dynamics haven't changed. And you know that feeling when you walk into a family gathering and suddenly feel yourself shrinking back into who you used to be. This happens to a lot of us where we are fully different person at work, but when it comes back to being home, it's a whole other version of us that no one tends to see. And so maybe you've experienced this, right? That moment when you catch yourself people pleasing, even though you've worked hard to break that pattern. Or the way your voice gets a little higher, a little more careful around certain family members. Or how you start second guessing decisions you were perfectly confident about before that family phone call. Or the automatic guilt when you set a boundary that's different from how you've always done things. I remember the first time I decided to not immediately answer one of my mom's calls because I was trying to have dedicated time with my boys. And when I tell you the guilt is real, here I was teaching my clients about boundaries, writing in my journal about protecting my peace. But when it came to family, that's a different kind of test because they knew you before you knew what boundaries even looked like. And so I want you to recognizing the reset signs. Before we can hit that reset button, we need to recognize when it's needed. And here are some signs I've noticed in my own journey and in just Beyond You community and different clients I've worked with, that sometimes it starts off with the energy shift. When you feel drained just thinking about family interactions, or when you're rehearsing conversations in your head. Or what about the times when you're editing your life updates to avoid certain reactions, or we talk about certain things with certain family members because you know they're going to be asking all the questions, or whether it's about a partner, or whether it's about kids, or asking questions that can sometimes be uncomfortable, or you don't want to necessarily talk about. And that is okay to not do that, but I just want to just noticing how your energy shifts around the person. Also, the pattern recognition, right? Sometimes noticing you become a different version of yourself around your family, finding yourself in familiar arguments that go nowhere, like really paying attention to the patterns, which has been kind of the theme and things we've talked about, just noticing the patterns that you're doing constantly. Also, realizing you're still seeking approval for decisions you're confident about. Like really paying attention how your patterns are shifting, how your energy is shifting, because know that we need to be able to set out these practical reset strategies because I want you to be able to be thriving in every area of your life to get back to that peace every day. So now we're going to get into what actually works when we're trying to reset these family dynamics, because it's one thing to recognize the patterns and it's another to actually change them. So I'm just going to share an example that I saw about just last Thanksgiving. I had a client where they just felt like a real test for her, because what she decided was that she wasn't doing the usual 3 house marathon that left her children overtired and completely drained. Instead of her usual yes to everything approach, what she did, which I really enjoyed, I thought that she did this. She chose one gathering where she could be fully present. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on pleasing everybody and worried about their comments or what's being said. And I think we go in a space where we feel like we have to please everybody. Like, I want you to pay attention exactly what you want to do before you let everybody else get in on what you want to do. So, what that looks like, okay, if I think about what I want to do, what protects my peace, right? What is something, how often do I want to see this person? Is that one time? Is that, do I rather, am I not crazy about seeing them right now? I want to see them at a later date. Just paying attention of just picking ones. You're not just exhausting yourself, whether with kids or not, you're not exhausting yourself constantly. But here's, I want you to navigate something like that because I know that can be really difficult. I want you, there's some different strategies you can use. So first is the pre-announcement strategy. Instead of waiting of the day of drama, like a lot of times we wait the day of to tell people what's going on. Stop doing that, okay? I want you to send a text 2 weeks before. If in anything, this could be Thanksgiving, could be any holiday or something you don't want to do, right? Here we stay in our hell yes moments at all times. So instead of waiting for the day of, what I want you to maybe write a text or send a message or something, looking forward to seeing everyone at, I don't know, grandma's from 2 to 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving, and say whatever holiday you want to insert. You know, I'll just use example for me. The boys and I are focused on quality time over quantity this year. Did everyone love it? Absolutely not. But giving advance notice meant people had time to adjust their expectations. You weren't defending your decisions in the moment, which can be really overly exhausting and not even realize it. And we could actually enjoy the time you were there because you knew ahead of time what was going on. People can work through their own emotions, and we're not over functioning for other people. Remember that. We do not do that. And so you allow people to have their own emotions. A lot of times we are trying to change people's emotions who are fully grown, trying to figure out on how they're going to feel or what they're going to do. But they've been doing this feeling stuff in their life for longer than us at times. But we try to take their emotions from them. We got to stop doing that. Okay. Next, I want you to use the clear communication method. When the pushback came, because it's always does, right? When you're setting a new boundary or anything, remember it's new and different. You're going to get pushback at first. And I use what I call my loving but firm responses. Okay, when it comes to their guilt trip, because it's the first thing people tend to do because it works. I don't blame people for doing guilt trips, but I, will say if we kind of follow suit and feel like we have to fix their guilt is when we have an issue here. But their guilt trip. So say it's, if we're using Thanksgiving example, but we've always see everyone on Thanksgiving or into whatever holiday that is. Your response could be something like, I know this is different. I'm choosing what works best for my family right now. I'm looking forward to the time we'll spend together. And this could be insert, even when it comes to a different function that you really don't want to go to. Anything, whether it's family, friends, or anybody, you can just say, you don't want to fix what they're feeling, but it be like, I'm not able to go this time, but I am open and going next Saturday. Or I can't go this weekend, but you have a great time. Like, just clear communicate on what you're not doing. It doesn't mean that they automatically are going to be mad at you. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. But know that just because they're upset doesn't mean you have to change in what you're doing. And I just want to remind you of that. And so next, I want you to really get the key here, right? Know that in the messages that I'm sending, when you could possibly say, giving you these examples, there's no over explaining, no apologizing for the change. You're just saying exactly and being very clear in what you want to do. So a lot of times we just need to have the real conversations, provide real solutions on what's going on. So let's talk about those daily interactions that test our new boundaries. I'm going to share some actual conversations and how to handle them because I hear these a lot. So, what better way to do that? And so, first, I want you to have that daily check in reset for yourself, right? When I changed how I handled, for example, my mom's daily calls, it would be at first in the beginning, this was years ago, my goodness. But in the beginning, it was, why aren't you picking up? I've called twice today. Old me would have felt guilty, apologize, drop everything to call back. But me now, mom, I love our talks. I can give you my full intention during my lunch break or after the boys' bedtime. Which would you prefer? And you can be able to do this. I know for me, there's like certain days that, I call my mother just so we can have a conversation. I know what days that she has church. I know what days that I'm able to just have this conversation because I figure out what works for you. In the beginning, it was like a constant battle. But I think it's just knowing and trusting, like, I will call you back. I do want to talk, but this is the day I can be able to fully talk. So now she already knows on when we'll talk, and if they do answer, it's not a personal attack because she knows I'm going to show up, right? But I think it's just kind of at first of just allowing people to just show them on how you're going to show up. Next is the parenting decision push, right? When family questions your parenting choices, and this happens quite a bit sometimes. Them could say something like, "You're too soft with those boys. In my day, blah, blah, blah." Or you should talk with those kids. In my day, like they're talking about for their experience. In a response, that could look like something of, I appreciate all I learned from you and how you raised me. I'm choosing to parent in a way that feels right for my children and our relationship. Okay? I need you to be so confident in the choices that you're making for yourself. And I think I talked about in last episode in Permission Slip, episode, I believe it's 3, where I don't know if it's 2, but I think it's more about you understanding on what type of parent that you want to get. You get to decide on what type of person, partner, parent, whoever that you want to be within your life. And this is kind of showing, going back to that as well. Now, also when it comes to the personal life, the boundaries there, this one's especially important because a lot of times they can say something like, don't you think the boys need a male influence? Or, if you're a single person and they feel like they need some type of influence, asking questions like, when are you going to start dating? Or when are you going to get married? Whatever answered in there. And I want you to have the response. Here's the response that I would say in that situation. When my boys have positive male role models in their life, I'm focused on creating a stable, peaceful home. When dating aligns with that, it'll happen naturally, right? Or if that doesn't feel good, you could say something like, I when I figure out what I want to do, I'll make sure to let you know, right? But notice on how we're not over explaining, we're not trying to just really give a full answer to people please, but just saying on just where we're coming from and the space that we're in. And I want you always to talk from your authenticity in your space, because that's going to really be more peaceful for you and not feel like you have to just give people explanation and get upset with yourself afterwards for doing so. So know that maintaining your peace through the reset can feel like a lot. So I just want to give you some tips on how to do that. So now here's what I want you to remember about maintaining these changes. The before strategy. Before any family interaction, I want you to set your intention, right? Review your boundaries. There's certain people, maybe it's an aunt, maybe it's a cousin that might be pushing. And I want you to be mindful of exactly on things that you're comfortable talking about and not comfortable talking about, right? Also have your responses ready. That's I'm giving you responses now if you want to just kind of keep that in mind, and you can see just kind of what resonates with you to be able to do that. Also, plan that exit. Plan the exit. When you're talking about exactly what you want to do, know that you can be able to plan that out, right? So if it's something like, if it's just you, like, okay, I'm okay with an hour, more than an hour, I need to check in with myself or what's going on, or if you know your patterns, if it's like, okay, if I feel like I'm just there and being distracted, that's the time I need to go, and just kind of honoring that for yourself, you know? And so planning that exit of like, oh, well, I have a meeting to go to, or, oh, I plan on leaving at this time. So it's not this like, oh, you're leaving now, this type of conversation. So have your before strategy already ready. And I literally keep these written in my phone at times in the beginning because it would sometimes be hard to remember, right? Of just how to get out of there or just what I need to do or reviewing the boundaries because a lot of times when you're in that practice, you have to be able to just have that reference point for yourself. So sometimes I review them in the car before family gatherings. If you know, there's times where my boys have caught me practicing and now they ask, Mom, are you doing your peace practice at times? Or yeah, they just know I try to like make sure that we're in spaces where we always feel just comfortable and, making sure that we just always feel comfortable everywhere we go. So I want that for you as well. And so know that during support, right, when you're in the middle of it, taking breaks, taking breathing breaks, bathrooms are great for this, right? When you need time to just breathe, to reset for yourself, when you're actually in the family gathering. Also, things like using a physical anchor, right? Sometimes, for me, I touch my wrist as a reminder or something that kind of helps ground whatever self soothes you and whatever it looks like. And remember, new patterns feel uncomfortable at first, right? So, you know, things I definitely work on, within the sessions that I do is making comfortable with uncomfortable. And so, but know that any new pattern, whether it's a healthy one, going from unhealthy to a healthy space, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. And I think you just need to be able to trust that process. And so the aftercare, right? Once you're done with that family gathering, I need you to take care of yourself. Like you are important. I need you to really take that time to take care of you. So this is crucial because what I want you to do is I want you to celebrate where you held your boundaries, like giving yourself those small wins of celebration of the fact like, yes, I did it. Like you allowed yourself to leave, you allowed yourself to just truly be present and know what worked and what didn't. Also, adjust your strategy for next time, right? Was there something where you felt like you stayed too long? You overstayed your welcome, not from them, but you kind of felt it. Or if you knew that they tend to start late and you are tired of being there all day because they start late. If it's something where you want to go a little bit later next time or what that looks like for you, or do you want to just go a little bit early so as soon as you eat, you get to leave? That's something to do as well. But just figure out that strategy for you. And also know that when we're at family gatherings and you know how these kind of conversations go, someone started asking about personal life choices. Remember, I just kind of referenced that or career decisions are within that familiar tone of concern, like that concern voice. In the past, a lot of times we spend that hours explaining and defending our decisions, trying to make everyone understand. But this time, you got it. It's different, right? And this is what I call the acknowledge and redirect, right? And so I hear that you care about me, and I'm confident in the path I'm on, and I'm happy with where I am right now. And like really being intentional with just saying, yeah, I'm good where I am right now. Like, I think a lot of people project in what feels good for them or what they know versus understanding that it is your life. So you get to decide on what that looks like for you. So the initial silence was uncomfortable, especially in situations like that. But something beautiful happens after too. When I accepted and when I stopped the pattern of defending myself, the conversation naturally shifted to something more meaningful because that's what happens when you break old patterns. You create space for new, more authentic connections, right? And so when actually hitting the reset button, a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to really get those small ways to practice. So I want you to start small, but be consistent. You don't have to be overhaul your family relationships overnight, okay? We want you to begin with small actions like setting a boundary around your time or simply saying, let me get back to you instead of immediately answering every request. Consistency helps people adjust to the new you. Okay, so I want to give you an example of this. So if you're used to always saying yes to family events, try saying, I won't be able to make it this time, but I hope you had a great time, right? Like there's so many things that you can be able to say. I want you to be able to own and how you feel constantly. So using those I statements, and I want you really to think about on just what's actually yours and what's someone else's, like deciding on what's yours to carry and what's not. Because a lot of times family often have a way of handling us emotional luggage that's not ours to carry. Someone's reaction to your boundary is not your responsibility. A parent's disapproval of your choices is not your burden to fix. ask yourself, am I carrying this because I think I have to or because I want to? And then allow yourself to let the rest go. So, and also allowing to practice neutrality, which we tend to do gray rock, especially when it's an uncomfortable position that you're in. And not every family comment requires a response. And I really want you to be intentional with that. So when on whoever asks an uncomfortable question or when they're settling down or anything that's about your life choices, a simple, I'm happy with where I'm at. Or when anything changes, I'll let you know. It's just more than enough. And I just don't want you to feel like you have to consistently be defending yourself all the time. And so I want to make this kind of super practical, having your toolkit with you. So here's just your starter kit for hitting that family reset button for yourself. And so first we're going to have the peace protection phrases, which I went in deeply in the January session of Beyond You Collective, where we really tapped into peace protection protocol. But for unsolicited advice, what I want you to do is I appreciate your perspective and I'm clear about my choice. Or something like that's interesting. I'm doing what works for me. And allow yourself to be able to have these tools with you. And I know we talked a little bit before, but even for guilt trips, I understand this feels different. This is what I need right now. Or I know change can be hard and making choices that bring me peace. Like really standing strong in what feels good for you. But I get that not every situation has a fairy tale ending when every family member is going to just be listening to what you're saying. Sometimes relationships might feel more distant initially, or some family members won't understand. You might be labeled as different or difficult or too into whatever, too much overwhelmed, too overwhelming or too sensitive or too dramatic. Like there's people are going to make comments. A lot of those people who say things like that do not know how to handle their own emotions, so they're going to make you feel bad for yours. And that's just going to be key to remember. And so understand this family reset journey isn't about creating walls. It's about building bridges that can actually support the weight of authentic relationships. So what I'm going to challenge you is to choose one family pattern you want to reset. Right? Write down your new response, practice it. Yes, like actually say it out loud. Use it in your next interaction and journal how it felt for you. Like really talk about how that was so you can kind of process that for yourself. A lot of times what I do is I keep a note in my phone called my peace wins, where I document every time I maintain a boundary and what happened afterwards. It helps to look back and see how far I've come and just realize on how I'm standing firm within my boundaries and what I'm choosing to work through and what not to deal with or work through. So remember, you're not just doing this for yourself, you're breaking patterns that might have run in your family for generations. You're showing that it's possible to love deeply while honoring yourself fully. So if you're ready to go deeper with this work and get support and maintain these changes, make sure to follow and share with someone who needs it so you can make sure that you come back for every episode. We're just building a community over here. And if you want to go further and deeper, we have our Beyond You Collective that's always available for you guys to be able to have. But I cannot wait to hear on how you guys feel about this episode. I want to hear the comments on what family reset button that you need to put, just for yourself. But until all then, I want you to be able to show up as yourself in every area of your life. You can love your family and reset the relationship. You can honor your roots and grow in a new direction. And you can maintain your connections and maintain your peace. Make sure to connect with us and TikTok at Moving Beyond You and Instagram at IamSamantha.a. And I cannot wait to hear how it's going for you. Until then, just watch out for yourself and truly show up for yourself each and every day.